And we are live. Hello, everyone. Making sure all of our tech is working correctly. Thank you for joining us for another episode here of Coach Magic. This is your host, Jenny Fenig. Thrilled to welcome our guest, Kasey D'Amato. Kasey, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Jenny.
Yeah, we're going to have a great time. Let me tell you a little bit about Kasey before we get cruising, because this woman has done a lot. And we get to learn from her today and really be in this energy of powerful women on a mission. And that's all of us here. So Kasey is an accomplished business advisor and executive life coach with 20 years of experience as a high achieving professional across multiple industries. Kasey began her career in pharmaceutical sales, later launching an aesthetic division of a dermatology practice as a board certified dermatology PA. Kasey went on to found a global skincare brand. That's very interesting. And then launch and expand her online coaching and consulting business, and later divided into two independent companies. She has a real estate portfolio. She has got a happy marriage. She's traveled the world with her husband. I love that. And also has experienced real life, right? Setbacks with Kasey's own emotional health and significant business challenges at times. But she really comes here with this deep understanding of what it takes to build a business and make hard decisions. And I love the fact, Kasey, that you have a mission to impact 1 million entrepreneurs and high achievers. So here we go. This is you on that mission, accomplishing the mission. So welcome to Coach Magic, Kasey.
Thanks, Jenny.
So happy to have you here. Okay, so you've done a lot. You've done a lot. Now, a lot of our people who are tuning in have also done a lot. And it seems like you've had all these pivots. You know, you've done this, and then how did you know when it was time to make those changes? Because you've made several changes in your journey. As have I. I'm raising my hand. I'm like, yeah, I get it. We're here. How did you know? Because many people struggle. They kind of stay in something because they don't know how to leave, or if they're allowed to leave, and they get afraid. So how have you navigated that?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think, yes, that we all are queens of reinvention, right, in our own ways. And I think you just get that itch for more at some point in your journey. So no matter what you've done, you've mastered that one skill or that one season of life, and you're thinking like, what's next? And it's not about chasing this shiny object. It's about what really lights you up, what's truly your purpose and your passion, and how do you align that with what you're doing. I'm all about sort of this aligned empire concept of taking what you're doing professionally and what you really are passionate about personally. It doesn't have to be perfectly aligned, but there's core concepts that have to be in alignment. And so I think when you're feeling that itch that your professional life, there's just a massive disconnect with your professional life and your core mission and passion. That's when you know it's time for reinvention or a major pivot, without chasing the shiny objects, because you don't want to jump too soon and just be like, that thing looks great. You try it. You're like, no, it's not so great. That thing looks great. You try it. No, not so great. You want to avoid that. You want to jump into something that you're really going to commit to for a season, and you're going to learn some skills you didn't have and apply that to your new season. So you're always building on yourself, all these building blocks of reinvention. I think that's really what it's at. I started in sales, and it was wholesale pharmaceutical. It wasn't glamorous like fancy pharmaceutical. This was like, I was employee number 5 in a wholesale pharmaceutical company selling IV medications to hospitals, like a drug pusher basically. And, sales, I learned a lot of skills about psychology there, but in my core, I felt that my purpose was to serve others. And that's when I decided to pursue medicine. And, I mastered that practice and launched an aesthetic division, like you were mentioning. And in doing that, I got to a point, about a decade in, thinking like, okay, I know I'm very good at what I do. I'm a clinical trainer, all the things. But I'm like, but there's more. Like there's more. I see an opportunity, and that's where the skincare was born in my first coaching and consulting business, which was to help other medical professionals. And the skincare was to help people feel better in a natural way. So there was always a building block from one to the other. And I didn't always let go of the first one. Sometimes I overlap them. There was kind of seasons where there was overlap. Some of those led to the hard times, though, the burnout. So I think you just have to trust yourself in, are you living with purpose professionally and personally?
Yeah. Are you living with purpose? I want to highlight that. Are you living with purpose? And it's so important to ask yourself this question, and it's not easy to answer it, especially when the answer is no, because then Then it's yes, like, yeah, great. Continue passing go, collect your $200. But if not, then things can get dicey and you got to start making these changes. But we're living in such interesting times. I mean, it's wild. I've been an entrepreneur and a coach for 17 plus years now. I had a corporate life before this life. And where we are right now, it's wild. It is, it's wild. And I think one of the gifts of this time, of this moment in time, is that we do get the opportunity to really ask ourselves, are we living with purpose? If all of what we're witnessing right now is possible because it's happening, well, what else is possible? What else is possible, right?
Totally. And some people don't know how to define what their purpose is. And it's like, it's kind of a cliche question that a lot of coaches ask. And it's sort of like coaching 101. It's like, if you had all the money and time in the world, what would you do? Like that concept. This is like a basic starting point just to get your wheels turning. And sometimes just that simple question, it's not anything super profound, but not everybody thinks about that on a daily basis. And sometimes it's just the starting point to start to think about, okay, what is it? Because what is it that you don't like about your current role, or what isn't lighting you up about your current situation? And is this something external? Like, is it another personality, or is it something that's going on in the external world, or is it something internal within you? And starting to recognize that, I think, is really the real trigger in finding that purpose is what do you really want to do fundamentally? Not just like my day job, not like 9 to 5, but like serving people, or or I want to build something of my own, like something conceptual that you feel is ingrained in you. And then what about your current role, like, isn't lighting you up? And is it external or is it internal? And those questions can start to help trigger, is it time for that reinvention?
Yeah, absolutely. These questions, this is what we do as coaches, right? We ask really great questions. Right. And it is a skill. It is a skill to know what's the question and how do you deliver it and all of it. And so I love this conversation. But that lighting you up concept, that's something I talk about in my work as well. Like, what lights you up? That question right there is treasure. All right. And so you all listening, if you give yourself the gift of asking yourself that question and carve out some space for the answers to come in, and then, as Kasey mentioned, you start getting this data and you can start making some of those shifts and changes. And sometimes it doesn't have to be these monumental shifts. It's just, what lights me up is I love sweating. I love moving my body. I love being in community. I did that this morning before this conversation today. I went to yoga, and that lights me up. And the more that I do that and have conversations, Kasey, you and I are just meeting. You don't probably know this about me, but today is a very significant day in my life and my journey, my history. It's the 31st anniversary of my younger sister's passing. And it's a very significant day for me. It shaped me. It has, guided pretty much my whole life, because she died when I was 16 years old and she was 12. And so this morning, knowing I want to do something for me to start this day and to really be present and to feel the energy of community around me. And it was so fascinating. There was a woman who I'd maybe seen in class before, but we had never talked. And I heard her saying to the teacher, today is my husband's birthday. He died 8 years ago. And I heard her say that. And then I shared my significance of this day too. And we had this connection to talk after class about them. And so connection for me is one of the things that lights me up. And so that very much guided my own journey of pivoting and shifting and getting myself into the right vocation. Because some people are not in the right vocation. Like, they're not, right?
That's it. I hope we can honor your sister today, and I hope you have a beautiful day today in honor of her. But it's so true. Some people are not in the right vocation. And sometimes when you think about what lights you up, or you think about your superpower, or you think about your zone of genius, the first thing that comes easy is your tactical things that you're doing every day. But then to start to think about it broader and broader and broader, and then you can take those broader skills and you can start to reinvent. And so I think that's the real secret to the reinvention process, or this pivoting process of going through one season or one chapter of your life. Maybe you've been doing something for 5 years or 10 years or 15 or more, and you're thinking, what's next? What's next? And it's making sure you're not running away from something, but you're being gravitated and pulled towards something, of course.
Yeah, that's a great distinction. You're not running away, because there will always be stuff. There's always going to be issues. It's not like there is no magical place where there's never going to be any issues. There's never going to be problems. There's never going to be any situations that you're going to need to deal with, or any maybe challenging people. Like, that comes with the territory. Business is business is business. It's not a picnic. It's business, and you've got to deal with stuff. But that we're not running away, because whatever you're running away from will just be in the new place too. Like, if you're running away from challenging conversations, if you're running away from being able to advocate for yourself and speak up about, this is what I want, and this is, it's still going to be there. So what is pulling you forward? Kasey, tell us. So this global skincare brand, how did you create that? What is that all about?
that was a biggest venture to date out of all the businesses. So I've helped grow 5 businesses, 3 of my own, 2 I've helped other people grow, and obviously my clients' businesses, I help grow them as well. So I think to date we're at like 50 clients or so. So and the skincare line was a passion of mine. I'd been practicing dermatology at that point about a decade. And I saw a void in the marketplace, that there was no natural skincare with medical grade research. And so, naive me at the moment, thinking about these other experience, like I started in sales, I had that skill. Now I've been practicing dermatology. I had the service providing skill. I was managing the team at the dermatology practice. I was a manager. I'm like, I have some team skills. So I'm like, I got this. Well, I didn't, I anticipated the fashion and beauty industry. If anybody knows the fashion and beauty industry, it's a whole nother beast it's a beast. So I started in our home in Los Angeles at the time. I live in the Miami area now, but that time I was in LA, and started formulating, and we did it. We made the first natural grade skincare with medical grade research. We partnered with a research facility in Germany, and the formulas are phenomenal and just spectacular. And so, we built this amazing thing, and we had raised capital, multiple rounds of capital, from seed to angel to friends and family, all the things, multiple rounds. And then it's sort of like, we built this thing, will they come? And that's not exactly how it works. So now enter like the sales and the marketing and the distribution, all those pieces of the puzzle. My vision was to sell through dermatology and plastic surgeon offices, which we did. Top Beverly Hills plastic surgeons loved the product. We had 5 sales reps around the country. But what happened is, this is what I didn't anticipate, and what you start to learn about cash flow, and you start to learn about some things on a bigger scale as you step into bigger, games in your journey, is that this distribution model was exceedingly expensive. It was going to be cost prohibitive to have reps in the field with cars, right? With like trunk loads full of samples. It's like, give everybody some. It was like Oprah. It was like, some for you, right? Like throwing them out the window. And so that distribution model was not going to work. So now my vision that I always thought would, be sold through medical practice, that we had to change. So, we had to find some other partners and explore online. We partnered with Derm Store and Skin Store and some of the big partners online. I interviewed and met with a QVC and some of those. This is back in like 2013, 14. Instagram was just kind of becoming a thing when this was happening. Social presence wasn't the way that it is now. So we didn't really have that. So we met with QVC, all these different iterations, and we're going through rounds of capital and all these things. And eventually we found a partner, the right partner for us, that was a network marketing company that had international distribution, more so even than domestic. And that really changed the game. So we had a proprietary ingredient and obviously proprietary formulas that we developed. We had medical grade research. We were published in the Journal of Drugs and Dermatology. And from the outside, everything looked spectacular, like press releases, celebrity shout outs, like all these things, Beverly Hills plastic surgeons, right? But the inside, at this point in time, I was practicing clinically. I had my first coaching and consulting business for medical practices. And I had the skincare company, which, if you've raised capital, raising capital is a full-time job. Running a business, flying to Peru to launch and Sweden to launch is also a full-time job. So, those overachievers in us, AKA myself, thought I could do it all. And that my body and mind said, no, we're gonna have to stop this right now, because
Yeah.
the stress level and the lack of sleep and that level of intensity was completely unsustainable. So during the pandemic, we had some distribution challenges for obvious reasons, some packaging that came from overseas and all that. And we made a strategic exit. It's a partnership. I'm still a silent partner. And I had to make some changes. I stepped back from clinical care at that time. I had to take some deep reflection. I still kept my original coaching and consulting business, the one I have today, my second business. I have a real estate portfolio. So right now I have 3 businesses and a real estate portfolio. And I had to make a very clear distinction. When I took the time off and the step back, I really took a step back. I went with my husband on a work project from him overseas and lived in remote parts of Morocco. And I studied myself. And why did I try to do everything at once? And I realized I thought I could grow everything. I thought I could be the trainer for dermatology. I thought I could be the consultant for the medical practice and launch the skincare at once. And I was naive to not realize, if you are a serial entrepreneur and you want to do multiple things at one time, this is the biggest takeaway I can tell you.
Mm-hmm.
Be intentional about which business is going to grow and which business you're going to put in coast, meaning you're going to stabilize with a strong team and it's not going to take your active energy, and which business might be contracting a little bit.
Right.
Meaning you're going to reduce your team, reduce your revenue so that it doesn't occupy your time. Only one business gets your full time attention. The other ones, if you put them in coast mode, you might be spending an hour or 2 a week meeting with some senior team. But other than that, not a lot of time on your schedule. Only one business gets your full time attention. The other ones have to get stabilized. They might grow steadily with a very, very strong leadership team. That's how my medical consulting company is right now. Super strong team there. And so I can focus on my personal brand and helping business owners align their empires and grow. So that's the biggest takeaway, is pay attention. If you're doing multiple businesses or you're in an executive role, what is getting your full-time attention? And what are you putting in coast and stabilizing with other team? This could be team at home too, by the way, because home takes 40 hours a week of, household chores or groceries or whatever it might be. So it might be hiring an assistant at home, nannies, getting a personal driver so you can work in the car. A girlfriend of mine did that. She's like, I'm getting a driver so I can work in the car. Like, what does it need to be so that if it's your home, quote unquote, job, right? Put something in coast so that you can put your full-time energy, 40 hours a week, into the one you want to grow.
That is very, very solid advice, learned on the front lines of thinking you could grow all of them simultaneously. So what did you learn about yourself when you asked yourself that question? Why do I think I can grow all this? Did you have an epiphany about like how you're wired or the messaging that you received, or what?
So many. I was overseas during this time. It was pandemic time, living in a very remote part of Morocco. With my husband, who works in television production. They work extremely long hours. So for 16 hours a day, I was alone. It wasn't safe for me to go out. I was in the middle of the mountains, in the Atlas Mountains in Morocco. And I was there for 4 months. And so it was very much a solitary moment in time. And during this time, there were so many different epiphanies. That was one, the growth, the coast or the contract of multiple businesses. The second one was the overachieving mindset puts us into this, we cannot lose drive and grit. And like, if we take care of ourselves, if we put boundaries on our time, if we take a break, we're weak and we are failing. And we are, not quote unquote winning the game, because it's all about the hustle and the grind. And I really started to study emotional intelligence and this sort of like this aggressive energy. Some people call it the masculine energy. I don't like to put a gender on it, but this energy that's strong, that grit in us as high achievers. And then that energy that is more self-preserving, the one that takes care of ourselves, that puts the oxygen mask on ourselves, that allows us to disconnect and reset. And was I being intentional with those two energies that we all have within us and balancing them? And the answer was no. At the time that I was trying to do all of the things, I was not being aware of the two different energies in myself. And when do I tell myself consciously, we are going right now? Don't hold back. There is no fear. I've walked on the hot coals with Tony Robbins and done all the things, like, right? So when do we tell ourselves consciously, like, the fear, shut the what up, because we're going? And then when do we tell that voice, hang on for a second, I need to just take a break and reset? So getting really in touch with my emotional state and learning how to put that powerhouse, energy on, and learning when to take the disconnect and reset. Now I do it every 90 days. I force myself, because otherwise my natural habit will go into, overachiever mode again. And I don't want that post trauma to happen again. So now every 90 days, there's a break, there's a disconnect, there's a reset, to the point that we travel a lot. Like you mentioned my bio. And my husband and I, when we travel, we turn phones off, and people call it a vacation. We say, yes, we're in a nice environment, maybe Europe or wherever it is, but this is a reset. We're not here to like be on a booze cruise, right? Like, we're here to be quiet, still, reflect on our purpose, reflect on our goals, reflect on our relationship, be alone with our own thoughts and mind and each other, without the outside world and influence. And we do it in another country so we can speak a different language, try different foods, and train our brain to learn different things. And when our brain is learning different things in a different culture, when we come back, we're so much more creative. The flow comes out of us. And so now we force these resets, on our calendar, because that disconnect time actually fuels us. And when we just go and grind, you just hit that wall and burn out.
You sure do. You sure do. And that's you're speaking my language. It's a big focus of my work. If you go to like really a lot of my profiles, the tagline is impact without burnout, impact without burnout. And so, because I've been there too. It's this, and it's so interesting. Again, we're doing this on the anniversary of Julie's passing. And I remember distinctly, I can see myself in my office in New York City. I was in my early 20s, and I was go. I mean, I was at a public relations agency, a global firm. We had huge clients and big budgets and big pressure and deadlines, and everything was a crisis. Everything was an emergency. It was emergency. And if you know PR, you tend to be the lowest on the budget train. So it was like advertising got first dibs, and then we were kind of like, I remember us. Right. So we were always kind of, advocating for our value. And so that was the game that we were in. And I just jumped right in. And I remember my first day on the job, I was there till 9 p.m. at night. And I was like, okay, this is how it's going to go. Right. And it was like that. It was just like that. It was just always like that. And I never really stopped and grieved after my sister died. Like, she died on a Sunday, and I went to school on Monday. Okay. Because I didn't want to fall behind. I can't fall behind. That message. I don't want to fall behind. I don't want to fall behind. You don't want to fall behind because you've worked so hard to get to this place. You're like, I don't want to fall behind. What's behind? Will I lose my position in line if I get out of the line? I get back into the line, and plus I didn't know how to grieve. So there was a lot going on. But I remember distinctly, it was in the month of February, right, very close to the anniversary, like the same week of the anniversary, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. It was like, I can't go on like this anymore. And I reached out to one of my colleagues who had a brother who died when she was in college. So we had that, like, we knew that pain. And I just told her, I am struggling right now. Like, I just couldn't stop crying. And she came over to my office, and we talked about things. And I got the courage up to tell my boss that I was like, the next day or a couple of days from then, I was going to take a half day off of work on like the anniversary of Julie's passing. I couldn't do the full day. That was too much. It was too bold at that time, but I was going to take a half day. And that really set me on this path of taking care of myself. Yeah. You don't serve anyone by thinking that you working all the time and also responding in instantaneous time frames is you winning the game. That's actually you losing the game. It will catch up to you. It catches up to you.
It will catch up to you. And I mean, just look, your experience, New York City, PR, that culture is hustle, hustle, hustle. Like, there's no stop for sure. And you didn't even allow yourself the time to grieve, because probably didn't even know how, or didn't allow yourself, for sure. Didn't allow yourself. And that's what we do as overachievers. It's like, go, because we need this mystery badge. No one's giving us the badge. No one's knocking on the door saying like, congrats, you overworked yourself to death. Like, high five. And it's all in our minds. It's if we weren't live right now, I would use some 4-letter language, but it's mind effery, I call it. Like, it's just, it messes with us. We think that we have to achieve all these things, and at the cost of our purpose, our impact, you know, to your messaging. Like
Yeah.
it's just not the way. We can live in purpose. We can have impact. We can take care of ourselves. We can be successful all at the same time with the right tools. And I think that's just the message that we are both in the coaching industry. We want to share with others.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are some of I know you really focus on easy to implement mindset strategies and business tools and roadmaps. What are some tips that you have for those who are resonating with this message? They're saying, yeah, I hear it all the time. I know this message has impact because the burnout thing. And I believe that as women, we do this too much. We're still trying to win at a game that honestly wasn't designed for us. And we're trying to play this ridiculous game. And and this is what I talk with my clients a lot about, is start playing your own game. Start playing your own game. You have to know that you are a player. There is a game. Okay. So what game are you willing to play? You can change the game when you know what the game is and you realize, oh, I can't win that one. I'm not playing that one. Okay. So I'm going to make my own. And it's very, very empowering because we need to be here. We matter in people's lives. We have a lot of people who rely on us and who care about us and love us and would really miss us. They will miss us when we're not here. And when you're not feeling well, when you are just like, hanging on by a thread, you're not impactful. You can't be present with your people. And so what are some of the tools and tips that you want to share with our audience today about how to really reclaim themselves and pull themselves out of some of this ridiculousness, this tomfoolery?
Yes, especially burnout. I know like a lot of your community is, burning out. And there's a couple of concepts that I really like to apply when we're thinking about burnout. The first concept, people love or hate Tony Robbins, but this one quote that I really like of his is trade your expectations for appreciation. So the expectation, to your point, of the game, of the winning of the game, what is the rule you set for yourself that you're causing the burnout? The burnout is something that you are creating in some way, whether you realize it or not. You're not changing something about your life. And that's why you're continuing in this path of overwhelm, burnout, all the things. The second is, and this will probably rub some people the wrong way, but I'm up for it. I'm up for the controversy. I'm ready. Yep. The burnout, the overwhelm, the stress. The one other thing I've learned over time is those are camouflaging. Those are the words we use. They're trending to just represent fear. And it's just, we're afraid to change. There is something, if you break down what the overwhelm is, maybe it's you feel like you don't have enough time. Why don't you have enough time? Well, I have to do work responsibilities, home responsibilities. What are the responsibilities? Why haven't we allocated these off to other people? Why haven't we eliminated these things that don't serve you, that are minutia, that aren't, only 20% of what you're doing is causing 80% of the impact, right? So 80% of it is garbage. Either stop doing it or allocate it to somebody else, right? So the stress, the overwhelm, and the burnout, I'm calling everybody out, to like it or not, it's your fear. Like there is a way to change. And it's just a matter of being honest with yourself of what is causing this for you, really getting granular and really look at yourself in the mirror and be like, why am I not changing this situation? Why am I not changing it? And so the change of where you're spending your time is what changes the game. And what, my platform is very much about the time, is that where you spend that time is what is going to change your life. And if you're like, but I got so many things to do, like, yeah, that sounds great, Kasey, but like, there's too much, like the list is never ending. Well, compartmentalize that list by departments at business and at home, and start literally cutting things off, get it, time block it. We're going down time blocking 101, block it in a way that you're spending blocks of time, like 90 minutes blocks of time, and on only the things that move your business forward or your life forward. So if you're in an early stage business, I always, get on people in early stage in business, like don't design your own website and spend time in your graphic creation or logo. Like you're like, move on, like get to your sales and marketing. If you don't attract your clients, you have no business. So get that done in a half a day and move on. Like we're not going to spend a month on this. Like we have to attract, at least beta test the market to make sure there's a concept here. And so It's all about the time, and it's all about you being truthful with yourself on the burnout and the overwhelm and the stress. What is at the root cause? And if it's somebody else in your life, guess what? We need to separate from that or have some conversations. If it's outside forces causing this, you're like, it's not me, it's them. Maybe it's them, maybe it's you. That's another hard look in the mirror, but something has to change. You can't keep going down this path, or 6 months from now, you're going to be more burnt out, and a year from now, more burnt out. Then what? So if you don't decide to make that change, nothing's going to get fixed, and your life and business will not get to the next level.
That's some real talk, tough love. That's just what it is. And what Kasey just did, she said, not everyone might like hearing this, but that's what we have to do. Like, that's what coaches do. We're not just here to give you candy, like candy. Oh, that just feels so good, because we're here to help activate change. There's a reason why you're uncomfortable right now. And so people can choose. You want to just stay in that? You want to just keep staying that? You tell yourself, oh, it's not that bad, or and no, you are miserable. You're miserable. So, to really look at that fear is at the root of it. You're afraid of a conversation, and then ask yourself, why are you afraid of that? Like, what is the worst thing that could happen? Own your power with this. Own your power. So many people forget that they have any power. And you're like, listen, you have it all going on. You are awesome. Look at everything that you've done. Look what you bring to the table. Like, you list out everything. And then you're afraid to bring this thing up. You're right. And sometimes, Kasey, I think it goes back to, this is childhood stuff, what they experienced in the home. That's why I'm such a fan of therapy and getting support and getting help, because this is deep. There's layers upon layers upon layers upon layers. But really, I think this great opportunity we have is to get liberated while we're here. To really be free. That's so we're dream.
Yeah, because all of this is in our mind, and it's kind of selfish. If we think about another thing, I'll call us all, we're all guilty of it. It's kind of selfish, because guess what? Like, we've all had that same fear. So like, it's not unique to you. We've all been at that stage at some time. And there's patterns that, business growth, I see this so much. The people that are starting out have a certain fear. The people that are at six figures, right? They're afraid of, looking at numbers, right? The people that are mid 7 figures, they're afraid of getting their systems and their SOPs or their team. The people that are at 8 figures, they've been so focused on business, they're kind of afraid of their personal life and their personal relationships. Like, there's patterns. We've all been in there. All of us have been there. So all the fear and the stress and the burnout, it's in our own minds. Like, we're holding ourselves back. It's a selfish thought, not a selfless thought about how we can help others, help our community, help our peers, help, the people that we serve. If we think about that, then it starts to go away. And we think about ourselves, then we get caught up in the fear again. Now we're thinking about ourselves. And again, no one's looking from the outside and giving us a failing grade, like, or a gold star. So like,
exactly,
get out of your own way and go.
Get out of your own way and go. Kasey, I know we're just about at the end. The theme of this conversation today is your dream life is more achievable than you think. How does somebody know what their dream life is? How do they define that?
Yeah. Some people are aware. They're like, I know I want to have a house on the beach. I have a certain vision of the, quote, perfect life, and like what I would be doing, how I would be giving back and contributing to the greater good. I mean, these are things I definitely love. The vision boards, looking at the vision boards, thinking about things that you love doing in your pastimes. How would you amplify those things? Who would you be around in your dream life? Your family, friend, who's there? Who's in your dream life? What pieces are there? What are you doing? How are you contributing? When you start putting those things together, you start to manifest, and you start to see this clearer. You can see that vision. Where are you living? The beach house, whatever it might be for you. Maybe it's mountains, whatever it is. For me, it's beach, but whatever it might be. What's the environment you want to be in nature, the natural environment you want to be in? Who do you want to be with you? And who are you serving at that time? Not business serving, but contributing to the greater good of humanity. How are you contributing in some way? And you can start to see things, build your life in that way, your dream life, and insulate yourself with 3 levels of who's. Make sure you have a team of people that are your mentors and your coaches that have different different skill sets, different zones of genius, your team of collaborators and peers that are going through things together that you can share and collaborate with, and your team supporting you. If you have a group of people at each level, you will make that dream life possible.
Yeah. So well said. Love all of it. And maybe I'm going to borrow from your dream life, which is I like those 90-day resets. I like those 90-day. My husband and I do love to travel. We have 3 kids and we're in this very much, there's 16, 13 and 10. It's full on. It's like full court press right now. But I think about what you said, I'm like, oh, that is very dreamy. That's very dreamy. So thank you for that. You really planted a seed with me today, and I appreciate you. And I appreciate everything that you are doing, what you're about, how you live, how you lead. Kasey, how can people get in touch with you? How can they find out more about you? Where do they go?
Yes, you can connect with me. Instagram and LinkedIn is where I hang out the most. So at Kasey D'Amato, both of those, a little bit on Facebook, but Instagram and LinkedIn, you can find me. I answer my own DMs, sometimes my team, but they'll introduce themselves if they're there, if I'm busy or traveling. But I would love to meet, hear more about you, share. I nerd out on business. So I love talking about business models. It's like, I just geek out on that. I could talk about it all day long. So anything you want to share, bounce ideas around, I'm happy to do that. I would love, love, love to connect. I've got a tool about how to find out if you are an aligned leader, your business and your life. So be happy to share that. It's coming out in 2 weeks. So yeah, I wish everybody success, and obviously supporting women founders out there and women entrepreneurs. We can do it. We've been the underdogs for many, many years, but those days are over.
You heard Kasey say it. Those days are over. It is a new era. It is a new dawn. It is a new day. And I am 100% with you, Kasey. This is the moment we've been waiting for right now. It's not a rehearsal. If you watch Jane Fonda's speech a few days back, it's not a rehearsal. This is our documentary moment. Who are you being in this moment? When you look back on this time, or when those people, the people who come after you look back on this time, who were you?
Yes.
Who were you? And you have to ask yourself, well, who am I? Who am I? And that's what this conversation helped unlock today. So thank you so much, Kasey. Thank everybody for tuning in. This is Jenny Fenig for Coach Magic, and we will connect again soon. Be well, everyone.